Greetings, dear viewer, and welcome to my review of one of the most iconic science fiction specials in history, the 20th anniversary celebration of Doctor Who. I imagine this review will reach more eyes than usual, so for any newcomers, welcome, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is the Dirvinator, and for the past few years I have been slowly making my way through the entirety of classic Doctor Who, about 90% of which for the first time. But obviously today is something special because of course I've seen this one before. So, whether you're a newcomer or one of my small band of regular viewers, the absolute legends that you are, it is my absolute privilege to bring you this 30-year-old Kiwi's rambling thoughts on this little piece of Doctor Who history.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
What are you doing?
Well, you said I could have a cameo in this new episode, so I thought I'd do the iconic opening bit.
Yeah, but I thought we agreed you'd be a stand-in for the 4th Doctor since, you know.
Yeah, I know. I was just kind of hoping for like a more significant role this time, I guess. You know, what did Tom even do?
He refused to be involved, so they stuck his doctor in a space triangle.
Exactly. That's why I thought it would kind of be more like interesting to be a stand-in for the first guy, you know? There'd be a better use for my talents, I think. What did he do?
William Hartnell.
Yeah.
He died.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you want to get stuck in a space triangle?
Yeah. I'll get stuck in a space triangle.
Nostalgia! The 5 Doctors is a feature-length special originally airing on the 23rd of November 1983. Exactly 20 years since an unearthly child changed the television landscape forever. After the 20th season wrapped up earlier that year, fans of the day were treated with the news that there'd be a big ol' anniversary celebration of the series. Who would return? Who would be writing and directing it? All good questions I'll get to eventually. But first, I'd like to discuss my own personal experiences with this story. If you've been following me for a while now, you'll know that I got into Doctor Who properly back in 2009 with The Tomb of the Cybermen and The Next Doctor. I quickly became an enthusiastic fan and would buy a lot of Doctor Who DVDs, both modern and classic. I mean, what else was a 13-year-old Whovian gonna spend his part-time supermarket wages on? Evidently not much has changed in 17 years. Well, many of those classic Doctor Who DVDs would go unwatched for over a decade. But one DVD that got a lot of use was, of course, The 5 Doctors. I mean, how could it not be? This 2-disc special edition got an absolute thrashing in my DVD player back in the day. I watched every version available several times. The extended 4-part version, the original broadcast version, the optional CGI version, and I loved it. Heck, I could have almost reviewed this without even re-watching it. Something I couldn't say about any other classic Doctor Who story. And this cover is awesome. The colour contrast and having all 5 Doctors standing front and centre. There's no greater fan service, in my opinion, than having multiple previous Doctors share the screen together. And even as a new fan back in 2009, who had barely seen any of the classic series, this was amazing to me. It may even be a perfect gateway into the classic series, but more on that later. In fact, watching it again now, all these years later, with all the context of watching the entire show up to this point, makes it all the more special and impactful. Okay, let me put a big asterisk here. The 2 previous statements I just made about this being a potentially good way for a newcomer to get into classic Doctor Who, and the experience of watching this now after watching the entire show up to this point, I'm going to bring up another idea that relates to these two later in the video, so tuck that away in the back of your mind. Before we dive in, just a little bit more rose-tinted nostalgia for you. Remember the good old days of pre-2010s YouTube? Before any sort of moderation or copyright regulation, back when full movies and TV shows, including modern and classic Doctor Who and missing episode reconstructions, were just freely available on the site to watch and enjoy. Even including this very channel. Yes, I doubt many of you even know this, but my biggest claim to fame before 2013 on YouTube was that my channel had the full Paul McGann Doctor Who movie uploaded on it, amongst other things, and it got me millions of views. Anyways, one of my fondest memories was watching clips from the 5 Doctors on YouTube before I saved up enough money to buy the DVD. And I will always remember this bizarre mashup video somebody made of the scene with the 3rd Doctor, the Cyberman, and the Rastan Warrior robot, and the killer rabbit of Carbanog from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I remember it had this adorable fluffy pink bunny zipping around killing all the Cybermen. It was actually pretty brutal and kind of freaked me out a bit. I think my memory might be jumbling up Sarah's pink coat with the rabbit, because the clip from the Monty Python movie, the rabbit is white and not pink. Either that or it was just stained with blood, because it's surprisingly gory for a Monty Python bit. That's enough about DVDs and killer rabbits. Right, The 5 Doctors, written by Terrance Dicks and directed by Peter Moffat. 2 popular, at the time, regular contributors to the series. Featuring Peter Davison as the 5th and current incarnation of the Doctor, with his current companions Tegan and Turlough. And yes, there is absolutely no sign or acknowledgement or even a hint at the mere existence of Chameleon, despite him literally being introduced as a TARDIS companion in the last episode. No great loss there. Returning legends include Patrick Troughton as the 2nd Doctor, John Pertwee as the 3rd Doctor, Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Carol Ann Ford as Susan, and of course, Nicholas Courtney as Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart. I'll admit, the Brigadier is a little bit less impactful, seeing as we literally just saw him not too long ago in Mordred Undead, but is nevertheless special, and I will never complain about more Briggy Diggy. Sarah to a lesser extent, because honestly, who even watched K9 and Company? Of course, there's many more minor cameos to cover later, but that lot, as well as Anthony Ainley's Master, are the main players in the 5 Doctors. So you might have noticed a few omissions. Not returning is William Hartnell, obviously, because he sadly passed away in 1975, replaced instead here by a Mr. Richard Hurndall. And of course, Tom Baker chose not to return, despite allegedly agreeing to at one point, because his ego was still just too damn big and he couldn't accept the fact that the world of Doctor Who didn't revolve around him anymore. Oops, sorry. I mean, it's a complicated situation with nuances and a lot of delicate feelings involved, and who am I kidding? If you know how Tom acted at the time, it's no surprise he wasn't involved. On that topic, the decision to use footage from the, at the time, unfinished and unreleased serial T.A.R.D.I. as a means to have the 4th Doctor appear in the story in a limited capacity was genius. Of course, now it's a bit odd, seeing as we do have completed versions of T.A.R.D.I. available to watch. A little too many in my opinion, but still, it works for this story. And it must be said, Richard Hurndall did an admirable effort at imitating old Bill Hartnell's performance. But personally, neither him nor David Bradley ever truly felt like the same man. Similar, but not the same. Say what you will about him as a person, but as an actor, there really is only one 1st Doctor, and it will always be William Hartnell. It does kinda, sorta, in a very small way, suck a little bit that you could even argue that this is technically another The 3 Doctors, since one is gone and one is a different actor. Like, I could see somebody arguing it diminishes the whole 5 Doctors aspect of it. But damn it, we Whovians have to have the biggest storage of suspension of disbelief in order to get the most out of enjoying this show. So I, and I bet most others, are happy to see this as a true blue 5 Doctors scenario through and through. The less said about the wax Tom Baker statue, the better. Well, I guess I should finally talk about the plot of this here story. We could talk more about cool behind-the-scenes stuff later. For the record, because I had already watched all available versions of this story on the 25th Anniversary Edition Special Edition DVD of the Five Doctors several times back in the day, I decided for this rewatch that I would check out the reasonably new 40th Anniversary Edition available on the Season 20 Classic Collection Blu-ray box set. The 40th Anniversary Edition of the 20th Anniversary Special. Wrap your head around that timey-wimey nonsense. Right! Somewhere on Gallifrey, a mysterious figure is utilizing the power of inexplicable sci-fi magic triangles to abduct different incarnations of the Doctor. It's later revealed that this was done in order to place them all in the Death Zone, one of Gallifrey's greatest secrets and regrets. A sick, twisted, deadly game of survival. Like Dread Zone from Ratchet Gladiator, or Deadlocked, only far less intense. Although, honestly, it's kind of just set dressing. Like, the setting, the location that the story takes place in, and it's a good excuse to get all these people and creatures together. The big bad guy abducts the Doctors and a small smattering of former companions to assist them in infiltrating the Tower of Rassilon, uncovering his tomb and gaining the power of immortality. Pretty by-the-numbers evil villain plot, not gonna lie, but the way they went about it makes for one heck of an anniversary special. I had a huge grin on my face the second Patrick Troughton walked on screen. Man, I missed him. Him and the Brigadier, the Third Doctor and his beloved car Bessie, Sarah Jane, the First Doctor, all scooped out of time and plopped in the Death Zone. The explanation that something went wrong during the scooping process when trying to abduct the Fourth Doctor is a bit flimsy, but hey, it was necessary in order to get away with calling this the Five Doctors. As a result, the Fourth Doctor and Romana are stuck in one of those sci-fi space triangles for the rest of the runtime. Oh, that reminds me! Hey, how you holding up over there, Sam?
Yeah. Not bad. I've been better.
Good stuff, mate. Keep it up. Meanwhile, the Fifth Doctor feels all of this happening. Pieces of himself being ripped out of time. He's drawn to Gallifrey to fix the problem. Or the TARDIS is, whatever, doesn't matter. The High Council of Gallifrey and all their infinite wisdom decide to enlist the help of the Master in order to help save the Doctor? Doctors? Plural? I mean, you could argue it makes sense seeing as one of the High Council turns out to be a traitor. Ooh, what a shock! Didn't see that one coming! For the 10th time. But going so far as to offer the Master a full pardon for his laundry list of unforgivable crimes, as well as an entire complete set of new regenerations, is insane. And yes, I can't ignore the fact that they're reusing the classic Doctor Who cliches of the bureaucratic Time Lord rulers making stupid decisions while simultaneously being infiltrated by a secret traitor who always turns out to be one of the Doctor's long-lost friends who we've never heard of before this point. Although in this case, we do actually know one of these characters. Barusa, the guy from several previous Doctor Who stories, including The Deadly Assassin, The Invasion of Time, and Arc of Infinity, always played by a different actor. He's finally worked his way up the Time Lord hierarchy and become President of Gallifrey! The same position offered to the Doctor once upon a time, not that he accepted it. Gee, I wonder who the traitor could be. But no spoilers here. So while the Fifth Doctor's faffing about with the higher-ups trying to identify the traitor, the other Doctors are all trying to survive a Dalek, a Yeti, the Cyberman, oh my! Does anybody even make Wizard of Oz references anymore? If you can turn off your logic circuits and ignore the potential continuity conundrums, it is very satisfying to see the First Doctor reunited with his granddaughter Susan. To see the Brigadier reunited with the only incarnation that was actually nice to him, and to see Sarah Jane reunited with her original Doctor. I can't help but think every incarnation of the Doctor should have had a bigger reaction to seeing Susan again. But I guess we'll just have to wait till the modern series 15 to see that. No? One day? Fingers crossed? In RTD we trust? Okay, eventually all the Doctors meet up in the Tower of Rassilon, and work together to save the day. Happy ending and all that. Anthony Ainley is in peak Master form, hamming up his performance just enough, and oh man, I love it. This is the definitive version of his Master that I've been waiting for. One of the unexpected consequences of watching random classic Doctor Who episodes out of order back in the day is I got to see Anthony Ainley's best performances as the Master. So when he actually showed up in the classic series, when I'm watching them all in order, I'm like, who is this guy? No disrespect intended, I've just been patiently waiting for him to be this maniacal and confident. And it was actually the Brigadier who got to deal with him this time. Finally, some justice, bit of comeuppance for all the times the Delgado version caused the Brigadier so much trouble. And hey, did they add a cheesy Indiana Jones cartoon punch sound effect in the 40th anniversary edition? Or was that always there? Well, anyway, on a personal note, I'm glad the scene where all the Doctors had to close their eyes and focus their mental energy to overpower the villain's brainwashing wasn't as cringy as I remember. Anytime you get a scene where it keeps rapidly cutting between a group of characters with their eyes closed, it tends to come out looking like some cheesy early Star Trek cringe fest. No disrespect, Trekkies, it's just the editing style that makes me think of that. One quick note for my regular viewers. Ever since one of my small band of regular commenters, who I appreciate dearly, managed to put into words what I'd been struggling to articulate regarding my feelings about Peter Davison's performance as the Fifth Doctor, I have forever been struggling to form any sort of attachment with him, or even identify him as the Doctor. Stay with me now. Well, he's perfectly serviceable here, and I never paid much attention while watching as a teenager, but now, wow, it is crazy to see him stand side by side with all these fully realised characters, definitive incarnations of the Doctor. And then there's just Peter reading his lines. There's got to be a way I can articulate my struggle with seeing him as the Doctor without sounding so mean. I'm sorry. Okay, day is saved, everyone's heading back to their own place in time and space, and they end the story with a smile, after the Doctor rejects being made President of Gallifrey once again, instead choosing to go on the run. A nice little throwback that I doubt will actually matter going forward. I guess they want you to think it's a sort of, continuity reset, like, the Doctor's on the run once again, just like it was in the old days, but for what? For saying no to being president again? He's already done that. Like I said, we'll see if it matters going forward. Okay, so, The Five Doctors is pretty friggin' amazing. Leading up to this revisit, I started to get this nagging worry that maybe the general fan consensus may have changed over the years. Perhaps people had turned against it for whatever reason. After all, these days, I'm forever getting these annoying, stupid video recommendations talking about how the 60th anniversary specials where David Tennant and Catherine Tate returns were actually terrible. They were secretly bad all along and will cause the true death of the show. Please. If Doctor Who can survive the Timeless Child retcon, I'm pretty sure it can survive by generation. Anyways, I sought out the opinions of the wisest people I knew, aka Dan the Man, a New Zealand Doctor Who Facebook fan group, and my community tab here on YouTube. Shout out to King of the Snakes and the Arbiter of Taste. Y'all are awesome as always. And it turns out, yes, for the most part, people still like The Five Doctors. Not necessarily as a resounding masterpiece, because it definitely has undeniable flaws, but I'm pleased that it seems like the general consensus is that The Five Doctors is still a beloved classic. As always, and for any new viewers who don't already know, I am clueless when it comes to popular opinion on classic Doctor Who serials. I couldn't care less. Sometimes it might land me in a bit of hot water, or sometimes I can provide an amusing, refreshing change from the norm. But yeah, I don't have a particularly strong connection or any deep insight into these old Doctor Who episodes, so don't take my opinions too seriously. With all that being said, time for some more unabashed love for this serial. It's just so good. So many iconic lines. I see you've redecorated. Don't like it. To the tower! To Rassilon! Fancy pants, Scarecrow. I'm noticing a lot of these are revolving around the second Doctor. Although that last one would have made a lot more sense if it was the second Doctor calling the third Doctor Scarecrow, because, Wurzel Gummidge. Little wink and a nod to the audience. Freeze, Sarah Jane! Soon be there! The iconic soundbite that they used for the 50th anniversary day of the Doctor. The original, you might say. Bugger, I've lost him. And of course, the Cybermen aneurysm meme sound effect. Oh. Oh, I love it. And of course, the third Doctor reversing the polarity of the neutron flow. Oh, classic. It has its goofy moments for sure. Sarah Jane Smith tripping and tumbling down a practically flat surface springs to mind. As a teen, I never realised how dumb the Daleks' death was, but it's still nothing compared to the Rainbow Dalek getting shoved down an elevator shaft in one of the Peter Cushing movies. Yet another clip that accumulated tens of thousands of views on my channel before copyright regulation destroyed all joy on this forsaken website. Ooh, bit of Dalek lore. The inside of the casing finally resembles what it would go on to look like for the foreseeable future, including the actual mutated Khalid creature inside being a disgusting green brain blob with flailing tentacles. Gnarly, green, and gross. They've certainly come a long way since that crusty crab claw creeping out from under a sheet back in 1963. Speaking of keeping track of lore and stuff, real quick, I just wanted to say that for the first few years of me working my way through classic Doctor Who and making these reviews, I was pretty good at keeping track of things like T.A.R.D.I.S lore and side character continuity. But lately, my memory has completely faltered, and I've lost track of much of the Gallifrey and Time Lord lore and who's who on the timeline. Sure, I'll remember an obscure one-off character like Drax, but I couldn't for the life of me recall if someone like the Castellan or Chancellor Flavia had been in the show before. No, in case you were wondering, it's their first appearance. Which is why I was so surprised when old mate Barusa showed up, and I actually remembered him. Specifically, the incarnation of him from Deadly Assassin. I was surprised to learn that was him in Arc of Infinity. As for the name Rassilon, I feel like I recall it being mentioned just once in the show before now, but I can't be too sure. Which is frustrating, because I distinctly remember that name from back in 2009 when I used to watch the DVD all the time. So in 2021, when I started this review series, I told myself, right, keep track of important Time Lord names and places like Rassilon, so that when I get to the Five Doctors, I'll know who they're talking about. And then I didn't. I'm so sorry, past me. Please forgive me.
That's okay. I forgive you.
And yeah, for the record, most fans will probably recognise the name Rassilon from his appearance in the End of Time Parts 1 and 2, which does muck up the continuity majorly, but hey, that's a plot hole for another day. What a villain! What villains! The Five Doctors is an absolute treasure trove of them. Y'all already know I love the Cybermen. And despite it being brief, anytime a Dalek shows up, it's an absolute treat. Shout out David Banks, Mark Hardy, and Roy Skelton for returning to provide their iconic voices. Excellent. And I gotta say, it is truly an accomplishment that despite bringing back so many iconic, legendary baddies, they still found time to introduce a new enemy. The Rastin Warrior Robot. The thing that was replaced by the Monty Python bunny in that YouTube video I talked about earlier. Even if it is just a caked up guy in a bodysuit, it's so badass. Whoosh, whoosh. Like a supremely upgraded Auton, who were apparently also supposed to appear in this story, but didn't quite make the cut. And quick side tangent, I had no idea there was so much love for this creature. There's apparently a huge portion of the fanbase just chomping at the bit, wanting it to return to the show. I mean, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but I genuinely didn't realise it was this popular. And it's a real shame that that unhinged mashup video I was talking about earlier seems to have been completely wiped from YouTube. A tragic end to this piece of lost media. And don't say I imagined it, because that would call into question my past self's absurd imagination, and I don't want to go down that road. Quick, moving on to another one of the coolest things this has going for it, the cameos. Sure, I am a bit upset that Sergeant Benton chose not to return due to a weird story decision. And I was absolutely devastated to learn that Deborah Watling, my beloved Victoria, was unable to make her planned appearance. But instead, we got the legendary, there's that word again, but there really is no other way to describe them other than the legendary Fraser Hines and Wendy Padbury as Jamie McCrimmon and Zoe. Even for the briefest of brief appearances, it was written into the story superbly, and they were an absolute delight to see. I've always remembered that bit, and I'm pretty sure I even discussed as much when Victoria left the TARDIS back in Fury from the Deep, because I didn't know she was leaving, because I thought it was her that was in this cameo from the Five Doctors that I remember seeing in 2009. The things that watching this show out of order does to your brain, I tell ya. I also appreciated the subtle, probably entirely unintentional throwback to the black and white era by having Zoe's costume include an oversized poncho made entirely of bubble wrap. The Ark in space, eat your heart out. But the other big dual cameo appearance that I literally had zero recollection of, so it was a huge surprise when they showed up, was Richard Franklin as Mike Yates and freaking Carolyn John as Liz Shaw. Liz Shaw, the third Doctor's first companion who only appeared in a single season, 4 serials in total, before disappearing from the show because the actress decided to have a baby, so they just wrote her out with a half-hearted explanation, yet still decided to work with her real-life husband in the show going forward? That Liz Shaw? Yes. And it was a lovely surprise. Never in a million years did I think we would be seeing Liz Shaw again in Doctor Who. I know Joe Grant apparently makes an appearance in the Sarah Jane Adventures, so we got that to look forward to one day, but wow, what a delightful, unexpected cameo. It might seem crazy to say, but that one might have even been like the biggest, most impactful moment for this rewatch for me. Because 1, I had no memory of it, and 2, now that I've seen the entire show up to this point and I know all the characters, it was just so unexpected. I almost wish we got more cameos, more fun fan service, but that would be greedy. And I suppose now I've got to start addressing some, not criticisms, but definite shortcomings. First one, real quick for the audio nerds out there, I do not recommend the Dolby Atmos audio setting for the 40th anniversary edition Blu-ray. It does not sound good through headphones or on a soundbar. Maybe if you've got your own in-house cinema set up, it might sound good, but yeah, otherwise I would steer clear. Alright viewer, stay with me here. Do you remember right at the start of this video when I put up a big asterisk and I asked you to remember me mentioning how this could be a potentially good story to watch if you're a newcomer to classic Doctor Who, and also my experiences of revisiting this after watching the entire series up to this point? Well, now I'm going to subvert that a bit by suggesting that it can work both for and against this. Okay, the 5 Doctors, you could argue, almost does work better for a newcomer or a more casual enjoyer of the show, rather than your more analytical die-hard fan. It never bothered me back in the day, because I didn't have the knowledge and experiences with all these Doctors and companions, but now that I have got, you know, all the classic series behind me, I do completely understand the criticisms that many of the reasons for these Doctors and companions showing up in the story are pretty weak. So 2009 me had the reaction of, oh wow, cool, more Doctors. But now that I've seen 120 plus serials learning to love all these characters, I have a slightly different perspective. For the most part, they're all just going about their day when suddenly, Space Triangle. They are there because it's fun fan service. Don't think too much about it. Although, while I do wish they got more screen time, that just comes from a naive, selfish place of wanting to spend more time with these fan favourites, when in reality it would bloat the story, overextend the runtime, and take away from the focus of the narrative. The temptation had to have been there though, limited only by imagination and budget. Bring in all the Doctors and all the companions, make them face off against all the enemies in the show's entire history. But no, this isn't Avengers Endgame, so I appreciate the restraint. Makes me appreciate the 50th even more now. The Day of the Doctor had perfectly shared screen time and weight in the plot for all 3 Doctors involved, in my opinion. 5 Doctors, Day of the Doctor, the 60th anniversary specials, I love them all. So yes, I would absolutely recommend somebody who's new to the classic series watch the 5 Doctors early on like I did. You get a general feel for the show, meet lots of iconic characters you'll undoubtedly learn to love if you decide to watch the full series, and catch glimpses of several recognisable villains. It's a great, not perfect, encapsulation of the show, distilled into 90 minutes. Now, coming at this from the perspective of someone who has watched all 128 serials leading up to this point, yeah, some of the Doctor-companion pairings are a bit random, and there's nowhere near enough screen time for each of the Doctors. But how could there ever be, without making this a 3-hour plus epic that drags on forever with probably the same budget? If viewed as a singular entity, the 5 Doctors is great. If viewed as a 20th anniversary celebration of the show, it's even better. If viewed as the 129th serial in a series, you have to ignore some contrivances and come up with your own creative workarounds for questionable continuity. Again, I do want to emphasize I'm not one of these continuity is king people, but I do appreciate it. But no matter how you look at it, it is fun, and it is an undeniable classic. One of the few times I will make an objective statement in my reviews. And I shudder at the thought that the day may come where the inhabitants of the internet become so cynical and jaded that they declare, actually, the Five Doctors was never good and you're dumb for ever thinking that it was. Before I go, I just wanted to emphasize how phenomenal of an achievement this is. The fact that they pulled it off with as many characters and cameos as they did is an astonishing accomplishment. John and Pat were 63 and 64 at the time. Their commitment and love for the show is so admirable and heartwarming. They hadn't been on screen in Doctor Who for over a decade, and in that entire time, they never stopped being the Doctor. Too bad for Tom for missing out, I guess. Sucks for him. Richard Herndl sadly passed away the year after the Five Doctors released, yet he cemented his acting legacy as part of the Doctor Who universe and will never be forgotten because of it. I know I've harped on about it enough during my reviews of the exhausting 7-year run of the Fourth Doctor, but it does suck when beloved, talented actors like Tom Baker and Christopher Eccleston, for whatever personal reasons they may have, choose not to engage with the show outside of their time in the spotlight in the same ways that many others do. Like, from a fan's perspective, I'm certain that the Day of the Doctor would have been so much more exciting had Chris returned. And I reckon that fans would have loved the Five Doctors even more if Tom Baker came back. Well, again, from a viewer's perspective, I'm sure the production team would have had an absolute nightmare of a time. I mean, just look at people like Fraser Hines, Sophie Aldred, Freema Agyeman, people whose time on Doctor Who was so short, and yet they accept and acknowledge it's such a big part of their lives. And like Karen Gillan, she's a full-on Hollywood movie star now, yet still finds time to go to conventions and answer questions about Doctor Who and stuff. But it makes it all the more special to know that the majority of folks, whether they be crew, production members, showrunners, screenwriters, directors, companion actors, doctors themselves, fans, love this show. And their love always shines through on screen. The Five Doctors is a treasure. This whole experience was an absolute treat. Watching this so many times as a teenager was a treat. Watching it again now, with the entire classic series up to this point at my back, was a treat. Getting to see Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, and so many companions and villains together again was a treat. Getting to hang out with my other self, my good friend Sam, again was a treat. But most of all, my boy K9 was in this one. Hot damn, the Five Doctors is a 10 out of 10 for my boy K9. Woo, let's go! Thank you so much for watching. Next week we kick off Season 21 with Warriors of the Deep. Whether you're a newcomer or a regular, you make this all worthwhile. And of course, thank you so much to my friend Sam Howard for taking time out of his busy schedule of being a successful actor, director, stand-up comedian, and working for... A pleasure as always, Fancy Pants.
Scarecrow.